Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today we have a special guest, Dr. Amy Jackson, returning to the show. In this episode, we are covering outsourced retainer programs and how they are changing the orthodontic offices of the future. From decreasing chair time to increased revenue and patient satisfaction, we're covering it all. So let's get into it. Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at GetSmileSuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. Amy, I am so excited to have you back on Hey Docs. It was a great first episode, but it's hard to believe it was like almost a year and a half ago. And so I'm excited to have you back.
Excited to be with you again, as always.
In the event that somebody doesn't know who you are or doesn't know much about Retainers for Life, would you just give us a little quick intro again about how you started the company and what it's all about?
Yeah, of course. Really, Retainers for Life was born out of a pain point that I saw inside the practice. This really broken down relationship that happened the first time the patient lost their retainer. And I can think of one instance that comes to mind that really was the turning point for me. And it was when one of my son's best friends had completed phase 1 orthodontic therapy with me. And I had delivered a Holly as part of his retention protocol. And before his first retainer check, I had been to his birthday party, which was a fabulous event and very fun. But by the time he came in, my son's friend came in for his first retainer check, he had lost his Holly retainer. Didn't know where it was, couldn't find it. Mom was frustrated, irritated. And she looked at him and she said, okay, so you're going to have to use your birthday money to replace your retainer. And I felt terrible, right? It pulls at your heartstrings. I'm the bad guy because they have to pay me. And so that was really the turning point for me when I decided, look, there has got to be a better way. And fortunately, timing wise, at that time, which was in 2016, we had the digital technology available to scan patients. And then also we had the technology available to 3D print models. And so I looked at those two pieces of technology, worked to merge them to create a program that was easier, more affordable for patients to replace their retainers. And it started all in the practice. And what I think the aha moment for me is when I realized how many patients were enjoying what I had created and were adopting the platform. But there were pain points along the way where it grew so fast and was adopted so well that it outgrew the bandwidth of my internal team to replace the retainers and run the program inside the practice. And so that was my next aha moment when I thought, you know what, there's got to be a better way for me. Is there a way that I can outsource this, delegate this to an outside company and have this run a little bit smoother and easier for me, but still make a profit from it and have the patients be at the center of the benefit? And so that's really how Retainers for Life was born. And then now I get to share it with other doctors, which is just a treat.
I love that. And it's so much fun just seeing how this company came to fruition. And isn't that so true in life? A lot of times really great things come out of pain points that we're experiencing. And I know for myself, I know you're like-minded. Sometimes there's got to be a better way to do this. Yes. Just because this process has been a part of our DNA within orthodontics, there has got to be a better way to get retainers out to patients. And it's funny that you say that, because I myself have a very similar story where I'm a lifelong retainer wearer, have worn them forever and ever, and was at a conference and my bag got lost. And just being such a busy person, even though I could call any orthodontist up almost and they'd be happy to help me. I was just so busy and ended up having a tooth move a little bit by the time I was actually able to get in and get a new set of retainers. And it's funny because I had thought the whole time, man, I wish my doctor had this program, because I would have been online and had that retainer to me 2 days later instead of waiting and hoping and praying that Southwest was going to get my bag back to me. One of the things I think about is we all know how important that debond appointment is. And it's twofold, because it's the end of our revenue stream, but yet it's an important appointment because we have to do so much to really just make sure that we're going to keep the patient happy and that their smile is going to be what we want it to be. And I think we run in so many times to how do we take that appointment where we're finishing up the treatment, maybe taking the braces off or whatnot, and then moving them into that retention appointment. And how do we do that all in 1 day or 2 days? That cycle becomes I think super stressful and sometimes a bottleneck within the practices. And so I'm wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about how, when you were thinking through this process, how you think that this using an outsourced program like Retainers for Life really can help the practice with time. Because I think that's always the question. And sometimes I don't know, where I think doctors and team members may push back, like, yeah, if it takes a week to get the retainer in, or if I have to do yada, 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 their teeth are going to move and then we're in the same spot. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. One of our goals is really to retainer appointments are a drag on the schedule. And retainers in general are a problem. They're a headache. There is not a perfect solution for retainers even today, right? There's no perfect retention solution. But one of the things that we were trying to do when we created Retainers for Life was to help doctors free up chair time for more productive appointments. There's some recent analytics that came out from Gauge recently where they suggest that we should be making $310 in revenue per appointment or greater, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're being really, really efficient with your orthodontic therapy, but then you add on all these additional retainer visits, that's really dragging down your revenue per appointment.
Yes.
And so again, one of our goals is to really help our practices keep that revenue per appointment healthy and allow us to be an extension of your practice where we take care of the retainer headaches, we keep the patient a raving fan, but also you allow the practice to extend the relationship with the patient. 10 years ago when I was doing this, I would see the patient for the last retainer check and I was done with them and I hope they never called me again.
Yep.
But we've learned that just like the story that you told, sometimes things happen. Sometimes patients stop wearing their retainers. Sometimes they have shifting. Sometimes life gets in the way and things happen and patients need retreatment at some point. And so another one of our goals of the company is to really make sure that the doctor that treated them, the first doctor that treated them, is face forward in that journey post retention so that when they need retreatment, that patient is funneled back to the practice.
Yes. And I really do love that because I would agree with you. And even in my earlier years of consulting, I would tell practices, hey, we're going to give them their retainers. We're going to see them back one time and then they call us. We don't call them because it really, I would go into especially to some of these existing practices and I'd see a whole afternoon with non-producing appointments being taken up just because we're looking at retainers and they can't even get their active patients in, which is making them work more days, work longer days and have more employees because we're just clogging up our schedule. Now, the not so great part about that is, like you just talked about, we lose that forward facing connection. We just spent a year and a half building this really great relationship, building these hopefully raving fans of our practice. And then we're just like, okay, see ya, and we're off. So one of the things that I do really love about this program is it keeps the patient, the doctor, the practice forward facing. And yet it makes it, when life does happen, it's not such a sting to the patient. And so I'm wondering if you can talk about that in how that builds in maybe to a practice's values and how they might use a program like this, not only for if in the event that a patient does have some relapse, because we're not going to be making retainers on for bites that don't fit anymore, but if they do have relapse, how easily they can get back into the practice, but also in the event that, darn it, Southwest screws up and loses their bags, how they can also easily jump on, and it just makes it a positive touch versus that negative touch, what you talked about with the son and his birthday party, where it's, are you kidding me? I just got all this great money and I was going to go buy this great thing, and I got to go buy a retainer now.
Exactly. I love the term raving fans, right? You work with practices all the time where you work so hard to create a raving fan through the journey of the orthodontic therapy, right? And I think most practices are very good at creating a great rapport with the patient and the family so that when they get to the end, they really do respect the doctor and they love the practice where they had their care. And the problem is when retainer issues happen, when retainer problems come up, when they lose their first retainer, which will happen, their relationship tends to sour. And I want to undo that. I want the practices to feel like this is something that we're doing for the patient because it's the best thing for the patient and because we care about the patient. And then in return, I want the patient to also feel that it's a heart thing from us, from our practice, because we care about you. We're going to make it easier and more affordable for you to replace them. And I've seen that once we made that switch, made it easier for families when they're on vacation, if they're at Disney, they can order one and it ships to their hotel room. They have a different feeling about the retainer program in your practice than they did when, oh, we've got to wait until we get back home and bring the model in or get a new impression or whatever your system might be. Is continuing that raving fan is really such a good thing for your practice.
By now, we all know I talk to a lot of doctors and give advice to practices in every stage of their life cycle. And one question my docs ask all the time is, who do you recommend for marketing to attract more new patients from the internet? My answer? Easy. I have been recommending Mary Kay Miller and her team at Kaleidoscope for the better part of a decade. Why? They are thorough, professional, and transparent. Kaleidoscope Digital Marketing is who you want to talk to because they understand how to market in the orthodontic world and they offer tools that are affordable and easy to use. I'm telling you, if you're looking to step up your digital presence, Kaleidoscope should be your first call. Go to contactkl.com to request your free digital marketing consultation. That's contactkl.com. We all know running and growing an orthodontic practice isn't easy, and technology is supposed to help you, but oftentimes your practice management software doesn't. Some of them are even clunky and need lots of third-party add-ons. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to my startup and existing clients, because Greyfinch is different. Greyfinch is an all-in-one web-based platform that saves you time and boosts your client base, productivity, and bottom line, with no downloads or third-party software needed. It even has tools you can't find anywhere else, like televisits, two-way email and text messaging, a patient self-service hub, and much more. Want to see how it can grow your practice? Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen and see why countless leading practices have made the switch. And as you're talking about that, I'm thinking, as I have a lot of younger doctors on the practice or on the podcast here, and I think some may be thinking, Jill, this is great, but how would this apply to me now? How would this apply to my new practice? And any of you that are out there listening, if you're working with me, we want to build this into that DNA of what our practice is going to be. And we really do need to not just be thinking about the starts that we're trying to get. Within 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 months, you're going to have a patient that's going to go into retention, or you're going to have that patient that's going to call up and you happen to be the new doctor that's going to take over kind of their retention program. Maybe they've moved, whatever. So, Amy, I'm wondering if you can talk us through what and how you guys advise practices build this into, like I said, that kind of that workflow of the practice, and how I personally think it is never too early to think about that end and that continuing life cycle of, instead of, I think so many times, like I said earlier, we just think we get to debond and that's the end of the relationship, instead of maybe this relationship going years and years. Even if a patient moves, they still can come back to you, even though they live in Texas or New Jersey or wherever they might have moved to. So do you mind talking a little bit about that for us?
Yes, the ideal would be something that we're not used to in orthodontics, but really creating this alumni of your practice.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
So yeah, they graduated from active orthodontic therapy
Hmm.
into the retention phase, but they are still an alumni of your practice and they're still tethered to your practice. So that's one of the things that we do for our doctors. And that's one thing that's very important. And then weaving it into your systems, making sure that retainers for life is seamless in your practice is really important to us because we don't want it to be disruptive. We don't want it to feel like it's one more thing. We really
Hmm.
want practices to feel like it's one less thing. And for your new practices, really that's huge. I'm embarking on building a new practice and my goal is to be as lean a machine as I can possibly be.
Yes. Yes.
And the only way you can be really lean is when you lean on people that are experts in doing certain things, like
Hmm.
answering the phones when you're not open, taking retainer orders at midnight when you're sleeping, hopefully, having somebody manage your accounts receivable for you. Those sorts of things can be super, super helpful, especially for a new practice. Doesn't mean you have to always delegate to somebody else. But as you're building, you really just should be focusing on building the best machine, the best customer service that's out there. And that takes a lot of time and energy itself. So how it works in my practice, and every practice that's a partner with us is very unique and different. But I'll tell you just my protocol in case that gives people ideas or something
That'd be
that they want
great.
to take and plug and play. So we introduce retainers for life in the new patient exam. Very simple conversation. I basically go through, hey, these are your treatment options. This is how long it's going to take. This is what our most popular retainer looks like. And I'm going to ask you, especially if it's an adult patient, this is what I say. I'm going to ask you to opt into our Smile Protection Plan that will allow you to replace your retainers at wholesale pricing and have them shipped directly to you. So that way you'll have a replacement the first time you lose your retainer, which is just a matter of time. The adults totally get it, right? They've either lost a retainer in the past, know somebody that's lost a retainer in the past, and they immediately get it. Plus the adults really they like the idea of having a clean, fresh retainer. Very easy to present it to them in the new patient exam. Some of our patients sign up in contract. Some of them don't. They really have the option to choose. And then once we get to the end of treatment, so fast forward to the end of treatment, what I'm doing with my braces patients is wires come out, appliances come off, bands are out. We scan the patients with their braces on.
Mhm.
Then we schedule them 2 weeks later, send that scan to the lab, to Retainers for Life. They scrub or erase the brackets or any appliances that are there, make the retainer on that digital model, and then ship the retainer to my practice. And so I see the patient then 2 weeks later, take the braces off, polish the glue, and deliver the retainers at that appointment. Now,
Wow.
I'm set up where Retainers for Life makes my end of treatment retainers. They're made for me for free, so I really don't have a lab tech anymore, which has been beneficial
Yes. Yes.
because my office is not making any retainers at all. So Retainers for Life makes my first end of treatment retainer for me, and then any replacement retainers that the patients need, they basically pick up their phone or go online and order it, and it ships to directly wherever they are or wherever they want it to be shipped.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for going through that workflow. And I'm curious. Let's say you had somebody that did not want to do it in the beginning for whatever reason. Do you guys offer it up again at the end if they are interested in the program?
We do, and they're incentivized through a discount if they sign up at the end. Once they finish treatment and they're in retention, then they pay full price.
Hmm.
So we do have a really high adoption rate just because A, they see the value, but B, they're incentivized with a discount if they sign up by a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So, as you look to the future and when we think about this technology and how this is working, I'm curious for docs who may be saying, yeah, but now I'm adding an extra cost at the end of treatment. Wouldn't it be easier for me to just buy my own printer and make my own retainers? Can you talk to that and what you guys have started to see just in that regard?
Oh Lord, yes. That's where I started, right? That's where I started. I had a 3D printer, an early adopter of a 3D printer. The 3D printer itself was a large investment, which the barrier to entry for a 3D printer has come down dramatically,
Hmm.
but was very expensive back when I bought it. The resin is still very expensive, but I think more than that is you have to have somebody that babysits that 3D printer all day long, every day. So that's a big job for somebody. And there are a lot of practices that take it on and do it very efficiently and very well, but you have to realize that there are costs associated with that, right? So if you're making your own retainers in-house, that's costing you anywhere from 8 to $23 per model that you print and per retainer that you make.
Hmm.
So you're looking at about 40, let's say $40 a patient, just an overhead cost to make those retainers, plus the additional staff member to babysit the 3D printer and also make the retainers. And so the costs really do add up. And I think that's another thing that's really nice about our program is you can eliminate all of those costs. Everything that we revenue share with the doctor is complete top line revenue. They don't have to think about expenses. We bonus their team. So it's really all, you partner with us and it's all gravy. Not only are we taking care of the patients and eliminating hopefully pain points for you in the retention arena, but our goal is to really add meaningful revenue to your practice so that you feel like it's a really good financial decision.
Sure, sure. So let's talk about that revenue because there aren't a lot of companies out there that are going to pay you to use their program and
Yes.
pay your team members. And the first time you talked about this way back when you were first talking to me about the company, I was like, oh, what a genius idea. Talk about getting the team on board and having them not see it as, oh my gosh, another thing the doctor wants to do. Instead, it's, ooh, every time we do this, there's a little spiff for me. So can you talk through that? Because I loved your thought on this.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. And I think there are a lot of things that I love about the company, but that's one of the things that I really love about the company, right? And it's because I am an orthodontist. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I love all of the technology that has come out.
Hmm.
I love virtual appointments and dental monitoring. I love smart wires. I was a huge adopter of Sure Smile wires in the beginning. I love Invisalign and aligners and all of the things, all of the technology that's come to the market and has been able to allow us to do really efficient,
Yeah.
cool things in the practice. The problem is all of those technologies are taking a bite out of the bottom line. And
Hmm.
so we have to be, as we move through time, really good strategic business thinkers, because as it takes a bite out of our bottom line, we don't want to have to take a cut in take home. And so
Hmm.
I wanted to build a company that really flipped the script and was doing something good for you, but instead of taking from you financially, was giving back to you financially. And that's what makes it so fun is I not only get to do good things for practices and help them out and do something that's really patient centric, but I get to revenue share with the practices for the work that they're doing, which is the scan. Yeah, so it just feels good to build a company like that.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So let's just talk a little bit about if there's a practice that's a doc that's listening and they're like, this may be what I've been looking for. This is going to free up that bottleneck. or this is really the direction that I want to go. I want to work on building that long-term relationship with my patients. What's some advice you have for them in setting up their systems or getting their team on board? Could you give us some tips and tricks there?
Yeah, I think a good place to start is really just talking to somebody that's had a program like this in their office or speaking to one of my team members just to understand what we can do for them. Everything that we
Mhm.
do for a practice starts with a discovery call. And just like I have certain pain points in my practice related to retention, it's important that my team understands what your pain points are because every practice, this Jill, is very different, very unique,
Yes.
runs differently, has different systems. They're all successful in their own way, and we don't want to disrupt their systems. We want to really
Mhm.
understand what their pain points are so we can fix them. So I think the
Yes.
first thing is starting with honestly, what are your retention pain points? What are your post orthodontic therapy pain points? And let us help with those. And then the second key is really the doctor being confident about what they're bringing into their practice and telling the team genuinely, look, I'm doing this for the patients. I think it's the best thing for the patients. I think the old way of retention is antiquated, and I need everybody to get behind this because I
Mm.
believe it's a good thing for us and also for the patient. So when we have practices and doctors that say that to their team, they just skyrocket. They have
Yes.
success from day one. The other ones that are, yeah, they can't really decide whether they like the program or not, don't have as much success. So it
Mhm.
starts there, believing in the system, truly standing behind it, and then letting your team know that.
Yeah. Oh, that's such sage advice. And I would think for any of my docs that are younger practices, there is not a better time to implement these systems now because your teams will know no different. And I feel like when you're slower, what a better time to really work on really honing in and getting those systems in place because you will only grow and only get busier. And imagine how seamless and easy that is when you've already gone through the little hiccups of whatever it takes to learn a new system. So if
So true.
somebody wants to find out more, they want to get a hold of you, they're like, again, I think this is that next thing that we want to bring into our practice. How would they do that?
So very easy. Our doctor facing website is afterorthorevenue.com.
Okay.
And the patient facing site is myretainersforlife.com.
Wonderful. Amy, it has been such a pleasure having you on. And again, I know that we're all looking for those little things just to increase what we are doing, the value we're bringing, the patient experience. And I really believe this is a value add to our practice and to the patient journey when they're in our practices. So thanks for developing this.
Thank you for having me. And I agree. We're all listening ears. And if there's anything that we can do to help our practices or help your practices, that's what we're built to do. And we just hope that patients get a lot of value out of it and the practices see the value as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, as the way I like to finish up Hey Docs is with a little speed round. So are you ready for the speed round challenge?
Ready.
All right, here we go. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Mm. Do you have a favorite book?
I'm reading Mind Gym right now with my son, which is really great because he's playing baseball and it's a really great book. And I would say one of my all-time favorites is The Four Agreements.
Oh, I like that. All right. Favorite outdoor activity?
I love to go for an outdoor walk, run, or hike.
Me too. We'll have to do that sometime. If you
Yes.
could be remembered for one thing, what would that be?
I just want to be known as a giver, somebody that is taking their talents and helping other people, lifting other people up around me. If that's how I come across and that's what people get from me, then I will consider my life a success.
Oh, I love that. And then the last question, best piece of advice you've ever received?
I love don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff.
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't heard it that way before. Again, Amy, thanks so much for being on Hey Docs with us and for sharing your knowledge. I know you're going to make a big impact on a lot of practices. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Always a pleasure, and look forward to next time.
Absolutely. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.